tonight. It is a post-game edition of the Tall Can Audio podcast after a Toronto team has dropped a rather devastating game. When has that ever steered us wrong before, right? When have I gotten overly fired up in those situations before? The big difference is this was a 3 o'clock, 3:30 start, and the team was the Blue Jays and not the Maple Leafs. And it is not yet the playoffs. So that perhaps more than anything else is reassuring. But I've gotten a little old. I keep putting the Leafs on in the playoffs at like 8 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock before the game's over. Yeah, I'm mad, but I'm too tired to come in and talk or whatever. If we could have more 3 o'clock collapses, I'd come in and give you more reaction podcasts. Jays lose for the second time in a row against the league's best Milwaukee Brewers. Matt Robinson with you here as we move through the final long weekend of the summer. Appreciate you joining me for this one, whether you're looking to hear somebody vent a little or, I don't know, maybe you're just killing time on a fairly miserable long weekend. The ass has dropped out of the summer in a hurry. We're on social media at Tall Can Audio. You can let us know what you think there. And make sure you're following the pod wherever you're hearing us right now. Before we get into it, I should mention we're sort of back into the regular swing of things on Tuesday morning for you. Back to school, back to work, back to real life. Lots of stuff going on. We'll be back here in our usual spot. Back in studio. Rob will be back. So we'll sort of get back into the... I'm saying the word back a lot. We will return to more traditional TCA programming on Tuesday. I think later in the week, you're also going to hear from Graham Creech. Been a little while since he's been in here from TSN 1200. That'll be fun as well. Lots of stuff going on. And this is just sort of... I don't know. I got some feelings. I can see a lot of you on our Twitter timeline have feelings about what's going on right now around the Blue Jays. And so, as I said, it wasn't an overly nice day out anyway. So why not come in here after the ball game and talk to you? It is the Saturday of a long weekend, so maybe we'll have a pint while we chat. Yeah, you know, maybe. Look. Let's start with what has been perhaps the most glaring issue of these last two games against the Milwaukee Brewers thus far, and that is that the Blue Jays have 3 runs on 11 hits and no home runs after these first 2 games. Is that not what you were thinking about after that game? Because it's a pretty big fucking problem. The Blue Jays on Friday... They were down, but held it tight for a while. The game got broken open. But when you don't score fucking anything, you probably won't win that game. Gausman is electric on Saturday and holds Milwaukee tight. You are tied at 1 going into the late innings. The game is right there for you. What if you'd have put up 2? Maybe 3? Anything more than what you did. So, I get it. Everyone's pissed at the bullpen right now, and we're going to get there. I'm not even going to sit here and be indignant and tell you there's nothing to worry about there, and it's all going to be fine, and it's just a slump. Although I kind of think that. But I am going to tell you, if you have zeroed in on Jeff Hoffman right now, while your team has scored 3 runs over 2 games against the best team in baseball, you're probably not zoomed properly. Zoom out a little. There are multiple things going on here. And it's really easy when you're tied at 1 and you go to Jeff Hoffman in the 9th inning in a non-save situation and he gives it up. And he did give it up. And his performance has been concerning. And we are going to talk about it. But if that's all you're able to muster, you're asking an awful lot of this bullpen, which you already know is in trouble. They are struggling. In some cases, they clearly are gassed. Score a fucking run. And I know it's not that easy. Milwaukee is a very good team. But I think you can understand the point that I was perhaps trying to make by leading this off by pointing at the offense and not just the bullpen, which right now is deservedly so, but has become the punching bag. And look, we can look at some things here, right? Like I talked about this a little while ago, man, several weeks ago now. It was in here with Rob. And I said, like, I don't know if this is a traditional first place team or not. But the thing about grabbing all those wins when you did was that you don't ever have to give them back. You're in first place because you won those games. And we're sitting here right now on Saturday evening. I got the TV on here beside me in the studio. And I'm cheering for the fucking Pirates to beat the Red Sox. And they're fucking doing it. It's 9-2 right now for Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh won Friday night against Boston as well. You're like, yeah, go Pittsburgh. I can't believe they're doing that to Boston for us. And yet, when we struggled against Pittsburgh, we're the worst team in the world. Well, which is it? Is Pittsburgh this fucking tire fire that is just completely unplayable, that beat us, and so we must be even worse? Or are they the lovable losers, and they got a shot? Boston, we're supposed to be afraid of them chasing us down, but also, as they lose to Pittsburgh, it's this unthinkable upset. But when we play them, it's not an unthinkable upset. It's that we're being proven as the frauds we are. It's a long season, man. You got to be able to kind of contextualize and understand that there's going to be slumps. Look, point being, I don't want to get off on a Pittsburgh Pirates tangent here. But they took a couple from us, and people couldn't handle it. And now they're taking a couple from Boston, and we're all loving it, but not drawing the line between, hey, sometimes weird shit happens in baseball. If you want to have a conversation, though, to circle back to what I was saying when I referenced that conversation with Rob about you don't ever have to give these wins back, you're still in first place by 3.5 games as I sit here and record this right now. We got Yankees, White Sox still to see if we're going to survive and whether the White Sox can do you solid here. But you're in first place by 3.5 games as I speak to you. And it's because you banked all those wins earlier. Now, if you want to talk about whether the Jays are for real or not, well, let me give you some numbers on that as well, because I'm nothing if not fair. The Blue Jays are 15 wins and 16 losses in their last 31 games. It kind of takes you back to where I thought they would be at the beginning of the season, and most of you have heard me say this before. Maybe a mediocre team that'll kind of hang around, not one game under 500, a little better than that, and kind of fight for a wild card spot. Well, 15 and 16 in the last 31 games, which is just an arbitrarily drawn line. If you'd have done that a month ago and said in the last 31 games, what's your record? You'd be way over 500. So you just sort of, when you pick your spots, you're trying to tell whatever story that you want to tell in that moment. One game under 500 says pretty mediocre, but you've already got all those other wins in your back pocket. And the Jays, if you've been paying attention here a little bit, seem to be getting lucky, makes it sound like they don't deserve it. But there's been an awful lot of nights where the Jays have lost, which happens, at the same time that the Yankees lose a bad one and they don't gain ground on you. Or on the same night that Boston loses to Pittsburgh and they don't gain ground on you. Now, that's all fair. That's the way sports goes sometimes. Those fan bases are kicking themselves going, what the fuck? Like, they don't believe in the Jays. They think the Jays are mediocre, and they're going, there they go. They lost, finally. Now we just got to finish these losers off, and they don't. Missed opportunities. So I don't sit here going, this Yankee team is just a beast, and we're lucky to be ahead of them. I don't think that about the Red Sox. On our last show, we talked to Bunda about that. I think you have three flawed teams that from time to time are going to get hot and then are going to get cold. The Yankees can hit the fuck out of the ball, and they have, when performing properly, and this will be something us Jays fans can relate to, a very good bullpen. But they can't defend for shit. The Jays can defend like motherfuckers. And their starting rotation right now is fantastic. But the bullpen has suddenly fallen apart. And all of a sudden, they can't hit. Do I expect all of those things to last for the Blue Jays bullpen will be this much of a tire fire the entire rest of the way. The rotation will be this lockdown with these top three unhittable the rest of the way, and we won't score another run? No. These things ebb and flow, and it's Look, I understand when I come in here sometimes, I come off a little pompous. It's not just the show. I get told that in person sometimes. I'm not trying to say you're wrong to be annoyed. I'm annoyed. I'm just not convinced that this is the permanent state of the... We are sitting here on August 30th in first place, and I'm supposed to forget everything that got us here and assume that this current rough stretch over the last 10 days is now permanent, and they will fall out of the playoffs, and they will be passed by the Yankees and the Red Sox, and it's all going to blow up. No. I refuse to forget that we are 130 games into this thing. Those games matter too. Those games count too. And you got a whole bunch of W's already in your pocket because of them. So why would I believe that this bad week is about to turn into a bad 40 days and just completely fall apart? Will it fix itself on Sunday? I don't know. Tuesday? Friday? A week from Friday? I don't know. Baseball is infuriating. It's the beautiful part of this sport. It often makes you want to kill yourself. This team may have overachieved a little this season. That's fine. But to assume that they are suddenly just a total dud is weird to me, man. It's weird. But I am going to give you one more number that says, maybe they are. Because I'm fair. While I'm judgmental and pompous, I'm fair. Since June 7th, the Blue Jays are 12-26 against teams above 500. That is a scary number. To me, that's harder than the 15-16 in the last 31, where you're like, man, you're a first place team. You need to be over 500. Look, as I said, those lines are sort of arbitrarily drawn, and at different points, you'd been 10 games over 500 in a 31-day stretch, and all over the place. They're not beating good teams at a good clip right now. And when I say right now, apparently I'm looking back to June 7th. Now, we should also keep in mind, every team's record against teams above 500 is obviously going to be worse than their record against the shitbirds. Unless the shitbirds are the Pirates or the White Sox. Anyway, but 12-26 since June 7th against good teams does make me step back and go, ooh. And it makes me kind of start skimming through the schedule and the results and go, well, if we're losing 2 out of 3 to the Pirates and the White Sox and some of these other frustrating series that you've had, you go, okay, well, we're not beating the good teams. We're not really pounding on the bad teams. How are we still in first place? It's just one of those years. It's a long season. Things happen. But this is the part I keep forcing myself to remember, is that we are 5 months through this motherfucker with fewer than 30 games to go. And we're in first place. I don't need to melt down with every loss. I don't need to lose my shit every time something goes wrong. The record suggests it's more likely than not when I get up tomorrow it will go better. Now, that doesn't mean when Hoffman walks into a game and gives up 2 home runs to the first 2 fucking batters he faces, I'm not cursing and pissed off and whatever else. I'm just not willing to, man, some of the tweets are like, these guys are going to miss the fucking playoffs. Worst bullpen in the history of baseball. It's a first place team, man. They're probably not quite as bad as you're painting it. But it sucks to watch when it goes like this. I want to try and frame this a slightly different way. When we look at the bullpen that the Blue Jays had on August 1st after the trade deadline, did you think it was good? Be honest. When you looked at that bullpen with that group of arms, did you think, all right, that's a nice trade deadline. That's a pretty good bullpen to go down the stretch with here. Went out and added Louis Varland, who was killing it in Minnesota, and you have under control for a long time. Sir Anthony Dominguez, killer stuff, big time arm, like can bring the heat. And Jeff Hoffman as your closer. At the time, I think we all hoped Jimmy Garcia was going to be back. It sure doesn't look like that's the case. And I know some people have already forgotten this name, but Sandlin was also somebody I think we were hoping to get back. And there's almost no talk about him. I would say at this point, it's unlikely either of those guys are coming back. But when you looked at that bullpen on August 1st, if you thought it was good then, you have reason to be irritated right now. You have reason to be frustrated right now. But it seems odd to me to have completely spun around and gone, nope, I'm throwing out everything I thought just 25 games ago, and now I think it sucks. And Louis Varland, he hasn't sucked, but he's given up more hits than he was in Minnesota, that's for sure. Sir Anthony Dominguez, I think a lot of people overly romanticized a bit, even coming in. His walks were high, and they're going to be. When you throw with that kind of heat and have that kind of action on your pitches, you're going to walk some guys. Now, most of them aren't coming around to score, and he's not giving up big-time home runs and hard contact. He's getting a lot of ground outs and things like that, which is good. But he is walking guys. This whole bullpen is walking people right now. Brendan Little seems to have sort of been figured out. There seems to be something weird going on with his curveball, which was something important to him before, and teams are now laying off a little bit more. And like they're just waiting for him to come to them in the zone. And I'm not sure if that's going to be fixable or not. The one that's scary to me, especially while I'm watching people yell and scream about replacing Hoffman as the closer, which isn't an unreasonable thing to be yelling and screaming about here on Saturday after this most recent performance. Everyone seems to be saying Yariel's your guy. Yariel, his ERA is in shambles right now. Since the All-Star break, he's having a hard time. And I like this kid. I'm glad they got him. They signed him for a long time. They're going to have time to work some things out here. But if nothing else, if you want a dominant closer, you want that guy to throw some heat. There were times earlier in the season where Yariel Rodriguez was hitting 98 miles per hour. He was averaging around 96 and a half in the first half. Since then, it's been more like 95 and a half to 97 that he's been averaging. In August, he's averaging in the 94s, and in his last start, he was more like 92 and a half. You can't look at the numbers that way and go, yup, that's my new closer. Go fuck yourself, Jeff Hoffman. You can say the last part, but you can't say that Yariel is the guy that I'm ready to plunk in there right now. There's something going on there. Is it an injury? Is he just tired? I think there's a lot of credence to the argument that this bullpen is tired. That's not all of it, but that is a part of it. They've got a lot of starters that are only going kind of 5.5 innings. And I don't know if it's their performance. I don't know if it's John Schneider, but he's coming out and pulling a lot of guys early. And look, in some cases, I get it. Barrios has had some meltdowns. Frankly, Bassett has had some meltdowns, although he's been better in his last 2 starts. You weren't sure over the last couple of months what Max Scherzer was going to give you as you were trying to figure out the thumb thing, which now seems to be behind him. But it's not like he's going deep into games. Bieber, at this point, coming in, he threw 92 pitches, I think, on Friday, where he wasn't quite as good as the Friday before against the Marlins. Now, this time he was facing a major league lineup, so that's a little bit different. But people were saying I'd have left him in there. Motherfucker's coming off a Tommy John here. I know we want to see him stay in there and eat up innings, and maybe by the time the playoffs arrive, and yes, I still think they're going to make the playoffs for some of you who are really melting down. Maybe by then you're allowing him to go 100, 105, 110. When there's more on the line and he's a little more built up, there was no reason to think on Friday when he got to 92 that it was unreasonable that John Schneider took him out. But when you got 2 guys like that, and I mentioned the earlier struggles of Bassett and Barrios, man, this bullpen has had to eat a lot of innings. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they're a little beat up right now. They're a little tired. They're a little gassed. Again, I don't think that's the whole thing. There are guys missing their spots. There's some bad performances that every bullpen arm is going to go through throughout the course of a regular season, and they just all seem to be going through it at once. But Yariel Rodriguez, man, that is the one that stands out right now. You had a guy averaging like 97, touching 98.5 earlier in the season, and he's now at 92.5. You can't even talk about putting that guy in as your closer. Like I said, it's been averaging 94, high 94, but still in the 94s through August. There's something going on there. And he's still young. He's eaten a lot of innings. Maybe he is just gassed. Like our buddy Stoughton at the batflip.ca suggested before this series with Milwaukee, maybe it's just one of those things teams do. My neck's a little sore. I'm going to put that guy on the injured list for 10 days and bring back Braden Fisher. A little early, before the rosters expand on Monday, September 1st. Just to give him a couple of days and just see if it's just that he's tired and he just needs a few days and you can bring somebody else in there to. But between him and Little and whatever's going on with Varland is one of those guys who, to me, it's quite clear this is just one of those ups and downs that goes on in a bullpen, in a reliever. They're a little erratic sometimes, and he's had his life uprooted, and some guys respond differently to others, after being dealt at the deadline. To me, there's nothing alarming there. He's just going through it a bit, like most guys do. But there are bigger things going on here. The league's got him figured out a bit. Rodriguez, that velo is way down, and that's a problem. And then there's Jeff Hoffman. Man. If you have decided you've seen enough and you're done with Jeff Hoffman as the Toronto Blue Jays closer for the season, I don't think you're that out of line. I would tell you that at about whatever the hell time it was today, 5:30 p.m. when he came in and gave up 2 home runs back-to-back in the 9th inning, I was done with Jeff Hoffman as the closer for the Toronto Blue Jays. We're an hour or 2 removed from that now. I've cooled off a little bit. I got a nice beer here in front of me. Mellowing out a little. But I'm not married to it. There is something going on there. And I'm trying to be, in so many ways, not just here on this show and not just about this topic, I'm trying to be cool. And once you hit your 40s, it's so hard to be cool. It's probably a lost cause. But we are talking about a guy who in May was pulled twice in a week after giving up multiple home runs. And also in May had 2 other appearances where he gave up, had 2 multiple run outings. But since the beginning of June, up until the last 10 days, maybe slightly longer, has been like a top 5 closer in the league. His pitch mix, his pitch placement, his velo, his statistics of guys getting on base, home runs, which is the conversation right now. He's been fantastic. And so I'm willing to admit that, I don't know what's going on with this guy this week. Is it possible? Just going a little up and down, like I said about previous relievers? Yeah, that's possible. Is it possible that whatever the Baltimore Orioles saw over the course of the winter when they had a contract worked out and then bailed on it because they saw something in his medical, is that causing the issue right now? Yeah, it's possible. Has something else crept in health-wise over the course of the year and that's hurting him now? Yeah, that's possible. Is he just done? Is he gassed? Is he pitching like shit? And he won't get it back this year. Don't forget, you've signed him for 3 years. But maybe he will in the offseason. All of these things are on the table. I'm just not married to the meltdown that I see about he's done, he's washed, he's out of the league, settle down. Because since June 1st, you have witnessed 3 months, 2.5 months, of an elite closer. When the playoffs start, even if you are one of these people who has decided, I don't want this guy closing for my team anymore, you lose me at, I don't want this guy on my playoff roster. This is a good major league pitcher who is having a rough go of it right now. And Caleb Joseph mentioned in the postgame show sort of some telling body language stuff that I tend to agree with. When a guy who's feeling it and is really confident gives up a home run, sometimes he doesn't even turn around and look. He's like, yeah, fuck, whatever. Give me the ball. I'll get the next guy. Hoffman's pretty animated out there. He's shaking his head. He's frustrated. And you would be. I got 42,000 people booing me here. And when they did it on Tuesday, they all had hot dog breath as they set a new record for Looney Dog Night. Probably stinks down there. All of them booing in the same direction. It's all landing right here on the mound. I don't know what to say about this guy. I really don't, because we have seen an elite closer and we have seen absolute tire fires. I throw the ERA away because I find often John Schneider can be a little too slow with the hook. So, Hoffman comes in, 1-run game, and he clearly doesn't have it tonight. He blows the save. Just get him out of there. It's done. Go to somebody else. The save's been blown. And I get it. Leave him in, see if he can finish the inning. But too often, he can't. He's already shown you he doesn't have it tonight. And he ends up giving up 2 or 3 more runs that never needed to be on his line. And now his ERA is all blown to shit. So that part doesn't bug me as much. But the home runs, man, they are alarming. And again, Caleb Joseph pointed out that the first of the 2 home runs, it's a bad pitch. It's a slider that goes right into the barrel and gets clubbed out. The second one against Christian Yelich, who is a fantastic hitter, it's a nice pitch that this guy just stepped out and hammered. And so in the situation that you're in, where it's back-to-back and you're already pissed at this guy because he blew one for you on Tuesday and he wasn't great against the Marlins and you're just sort of fed up, you're just like, I don't care what the situation is. Fuck you. You can't come into this game and give up 2 dingers back-to-back. But there is context. One's a brutal pitch that drifts right into the wrong part of the plate and gets hammered. The other's a really nice pitch that 9 out of 10 times nobody's going to get, but Yelich has a chance to. So even within the situation that you're working through here, there's still context. But the home runs, you're right to be alarmed about. Like Jeff Hoffman has given up 14 home runs in under 60 innings. Last year he gave up 6. The year before he gave up 3. So this is insane. This is not what normally happens to him. Is there some bad luck in there? Yeah. Is there obviously something else happening? Yeah. I can't identify that for you. Speaking of this, 14 home runs in under 60 innings. There is only one other pitcher who has given up 14 home runs in this few innings this season. Give you a second. You're going to recognize the name. He used to wear blue. His name is Green. It's Chad Green of your Toronto. Two guys have done it this year, and they were both on the Blue Jays. One of them was like, thanks, man. We're going to waive you now. And Chad Green was sent packing. I still don't think Jeff Hoffman is being sent packing. But like I said, while I'm not prepared to write him off completely, I am not going to sit here and lecture you or wave the finger at you and be, well, pompous and condescending about anybody saying, you can't keep running this guy out there to close right now. I will be the guy who says, yeah, then who is? But that's a different conversation. It's funny, in the history of Major League Baseball, there have only been 10 other guys who have given up 14 home runs in a season in 60 or fewer innings, besides Chad Green and Jeff Hoffman. Now, Hoffman, by the end of the year, will get himself off of this list because he will have more than 60 innings. But that's how rare this is in the history of Major League Baseball, that relievers, especially leverage relievers, late inning elite relievers, are getting hit this hard 10 times. Before the two this year, Chad Green and Jeff Hoffman, it's only ever happened 10 times in Major League history. Whew. It's not good. It's not good. So I don't know what to say. I don't know if you feel any better now. I don't. Thought I'd come in here and vent to you. It hasn't helped. I'm still annoyed. I'm trying to be reasonable, trying to be objective. And look, they're going to play again on Monday, and should they be lucky enough to have a lead against the first place Milwaukee Brewers in the late innings, I'll be surprised. I will be surprised if it's Jeff Hoffman who has run out there. One of the things I like about John Schneider is that he's loyal to his guys. Now, can that go poorly? Yeah. Sometimes you stick with them too long. Sometimes you're overly loyal. But you want to lean in that direction as opposed to the opposite. If you're going to be called out, if you're going to be held at fault for one over the other, you want to be called out for being just a little too loyal as opposed to not loyal enough, because that'll kill you inside the clubhouse and around the organization. So I don't blame John Schneider, and it worked earlier in the week. Jeff Hoffman came out on Tuesday, blew a save. Schneider went right back to him on Wednesday, and he got the save. That's loyalty being rewarded. I don't know if he'll be up for doing it again on Sunday. And look, there's a lot of talk that this wasn't a save situation. He doesn't do well in non-save situations. Look, he hasn't done well here lately in a bunch of different situations. 1-run leads, 2-run leads. It was the same in May. He had a 3-run lead he blew. Look, it's not about that. To me, I don't know that I would have went to Hoffman today. Like, today he had, and we're talking about Saturday, if you're listening to this down the road. Today he had a plausible situation to say to Hoffman, why don't you just stay there? And because it's tied and it's not a lead, I'm going to go to somebody else. Like, that was his way out today. But he went to Hoffman. That's his guy. And man, it did not go well. So if they have a lead on Sunday, the thing would have been, he hasn't pitched since Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're at home, trying to hold it tight here. There are teams who use their closer in the top of the ninth, even if it's not a save situation. That's the counter argument. But I think now, having seen it blow up again, should they have the lead on Sunday, you might see him go somewhere else. And he will defend Hoffman to the hilt in the media. Right? He's working through some things, and he just pitched last night, and these sorts of things. You will never come out and bury Hoffman, and nor should he. But you may see him go somewhere else. But man, they're going through it. Like I said, Varland's getting hit. Yariel Rodriguez's velo's way down. Sandlin and Garcia don't look like they're coming back. Tommy Nance, your guy? Maybe. He's pitching well. Not that well. That'll probably do it for tonight. Just kicking some things around. Just thinking out loud as much as anything else. As I mentioned, we'll be back to normal here, back into the swing of things on Tuesday. You're going to hear from Graham Creech later on in the week. That pigeon. And we're still trying to nail down exactly what day that's going to be. And we will aim to get some of our baseball friends back on the show here over the next week or two. Try and break down exactly what's going on. And look, there's no shame of losing 2 or 3, God willing, to the Milwaukee Brewers. They're the best team in baseball. But this was a measuring stick series. If you want to consider yourself the best team in the AL, facing the best team in the NL, and legitimately, on paper, the records say that's what this was. Hasn't gone well. But I would encourage you, as I said off the top, to zoom out a little and remember that Hoffman is not in that situation today at 1-1, non-save situation, top of the 9th, if the Blue Jays had scored a couple of fucking runs. You haven't faced the elite of the elite when it comes to pitching in this Milwaukee series. 11 hits, 3 runs, no home runs over the first 2 games. There's some blame to go around here. None of it to Gausman, none of it to Bieber, but just about everybody else is on the hook. And if you're focused in on just Hoffman, that's the flashy thing, that's where the spotlight is. Lots of places to look and place blame here after 2 games against the Brewers. Let's get out of here. I think I'm done. My beer's done, so I got to be done. As much as anything, it's felt a little quiet around here this week. Monday morning with Dean Brown. Wednesday afternoon with Steve Bunda. And then with the holiday Monday, I knew there'd be nothing out. We aren't doing anything till, we normally do the Monday morning thing. It'll be Tuesday morning here because of the long weekend. So it was a long break in between shows. So thought we'd come in and vent on a little of what's going on here. Hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, well, we'll try and do better next time. My name is Matt Robinson. Thank you for listening. We're on social media. We'd love to talk to you there at Tall Can Audio. If not, you do you. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.